Hi, today I want to show you that you can cook something for your family, a dinner, that you can do in very limited amount of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a crock pot recipe. So I've got my crock pot here. I actually have the base of it already plugged in, warming up on low. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a little bit of Moroccan chicken. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to slice up an onion, a yellow onion. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to talk through it as we go through. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my onion. A lot of us worry about cutting onions because of cutting ourselves or making them perfect. And the nice thing is they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to help have flavor in different bites, and it's going to help with the texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the one end, and then I'm going to turn it to the other side, and I'm going to cut off the other end. And those I'm just going to get rid of. And then I'm going to peel. You can see I'm peeling the outside. I usually peel the first couple of layers just because I want to make sure that I have a nice clean onion. So you can see the difference there with that nice clean onion. So I'm peeling this second layer off right now. And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to cut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to slice it. And when I slice it, there are a couple of different ways that you can do it. I like to slice it in half first. And the reason that I like to slice it in half first is because this gives me a nice base to lay it on so that I don't have to have it rolling around. So I'm going to take this and I'm simply going to slice. And notice that I am clawing my fingers like this so that they don't get in the way and so that I don't cut them. All right, so I've cut this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to stack the pieces up in a couple of different stacks. And I'm just going to simply quickly cut around them to make the pieces a little bit smaller. Okay, that way I don't have huge pieces in there. So I'm going to go around this little small piece here. And then I'm going to hit these pieces. And notice that I'm not really cutting them exactly the same. I'm just cutting around the middle. Now, my onion, my full onion that I'm doing here is going to go on the bottom of my pot so that I still have room to do things. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this over here in the bottom of my pot. All right, I'm going to cut the second half of my onion. So I have the second half of my onion going here. And this is actually a nice, good, spicy yellow onion. I will tell you, and you can believe me, that my eyes are watering like crazy as I go through and I do this. Being very, very careful, even with my eyes watering, to make sure that I don't close them and I don't cut a finger off as I'm going through. All right, I'm going to put the second half of this onion in the bottom of my pot. All right, I'm going to quickly show you the bottom of the pot so that you can see what it looks like layered with the onions. So this is the bottom of my pot, nicely layered with onions. Now I'm going to move to the next part of this, which is going to be my chicken and my sweet potatoes. Before I started the video, I gave my sweet potatoes a nice wash. I just rinsed them under water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice my sweet potatoes. And I'm going to slice them in fairly thick chunks here. And you need to make sure you have a nice knife with this. Sweet potatoes can actually be quite difficult to slice if you don't have the right tools. So then I'm going to take each of these and I'm going to quarter them. I've got a bowl off to my left because I want to put the chicken in prior to putting in my sweet potatoes. And I want to cut my sweet potatoes first just because the last thing that I want to cut is going to be my chicken. And the reason for that is I don't want to have to clean up the juice from the chicken prior to going back and cutting the potatoes. So you can actually cut anything in any order that you desire. I always cut the chicken last just because that makes it easier for me to clean. So I've got my second potato. You can see on the second potato it's got some eyes on it. So I'm simply going to cut those off, and I've got a container for garbage off to the side as well so that I can take that out to my compost in my garden. So I'm going to cut this. And my final nice piece here. And then again, I'm going to cut in quarters. This one is fairly small, so I'm just going to cut it in half. This one, I'll go ahead and cut in quarters. And then I'm going to stack a couple of them at a time and cut them into quarters. Notice that I'm keeping my fingers out of the way. I'm not putting them below the blade because putting them below the blade obviously can cause some major issues. So I'm going to cut in quarter here. And I'm going to cut in a quarter here. I have one more sweet potato to cut before I put it into the pot. So here is my third and final sweet potato that I'm cutting. And again, notice that I'm cutting these in fairly large sections. And that's because I want my sweet potatoes to be a nice, good, healthy size when I put them in there. Again, this one I'm just going to cut in half. Notice that I'm not peeling my potatoes. And the reason that I'm not peeling my potatoes is the skin, and this is true of a lot of our vegetables, is the skin on the outside. This actually has quite a few of and most of our vitamins and our minerals that we're going to want to be getting from this. So I just washed it off just to get the dirt off and make it so that I can go ahead and put that in there. All right, so those are now done. Since I'm already cutting, another thing that I'm going to cut up is I'm going to cut my garlic. And a lot of people try and peel their garlic, and it takes forever. There's actually a faster way to peel it. I'm going to lay the flat of my knife against it, and I'm going to hit it with the heel of my hand. When I do that, it makes it very, very easy to peel, and I don't have to worry about all that peeling that takes forever. So this one had a couple of different pieces inside of it. And look at how quickly, easily they come out. I went ahead and taught this to one of my nephews earlier this year who was trying to peel it. And he's 12 years old. So you can learn to cook at a very young age. He's been cooking most of his life. He's actually a phenomenal cook, one of the best bakers I've ever met. And when I taught him to do this, it made everything so much easier. He enjoyed it so much. I think he went through probably 20, 30 cloves of garlic doing this, these little toes. And he enjoyed it so much, he just kept going. So I had more garlic than I needed for quite a while, but that's okay. He enjoyed it. It was easy for him. So now what we're going to do is we're simply going to slice, and I'm going to hold on either side, make nice thin slices here. And then I'm going to come across and just do a very, very quick cut on this. Again, I don't care about the exact size because it's going to be in different bites. It is also going to really give me some great flavor as I go through. And the garlic will cook to the point where people won't even notice that there are garlic chunks in there. And that's what we're looking for, is for them to not notice and really be able to enjoy the food for the flavor of the food. So I've got one last one to quickly slice here. And I'm going to put this off to the side with my sweet potatoes. Because again, I'm going to want to add the chicken first. All right, now it is time for me to do the chicken. So I'm going to go get the chicken out of the container. All right, I've got my chicken out, and this is actually several chicken thighs that came in a container together, and it's not completely thawed, and that's okay. What I'm going to do is, the great thing about slow cooker is you don't actually have to cut it up into pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fairly big fork, and this is a nice serving fork, and I'm going to sit and I'm just going to put some holes in these thighs. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's going to give the thighs, the meat, the ability to soak up all of the spices that I'm putting in. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. I can actually put this directly into my pot and not have to worry about it. So I'm going to put this in the pot right above the onions. I'm going to give my hands a good quick wash here to get off of the bacteria, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like in the pot. Okay, I'm going to show you what it looks like in the pot. So I've literally just laid that chicken down right on top of the onions. Now I'm going to bring this in front of me so that we can see what I'm doing, and we are going to look at what I'm adding. Okay, so I've got my pot down in front of me, and as I mentioned before, I already put in a small bowl off to the side my sweet potatoes and my garlic. You can also put ginger in this recipe, which I really like. Here's the ease of this. All I'm going to do is dump this right on top. I'm going to make sure that all of my garlic is out and it's not stuck to the side. So that's in the pot now. The final thing that we are going to do is we're going to add all of our spices. So I'm using a teaspoon, and this is actually a teaspoon out of a regular cutlery set. I don't actually use teaspoons as measuring spoons that you buy in the store. I use teaspoon and tablespoon that actually come with my cutlery. That's less that I have to buy. That's less that I have to deal with. So the first thing that we're going to add is we are going to add a teaspoon of salt. So I already pre-did this so that I know that this is a teaspoon because I grind my own salt. So I have my teaspoon, and I'm going to dump that right in there. Then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of paprika, and I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of this. So I'm going to measure out 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to measure out 2 teaspoons. So I've got 2 teaspoons of paprika. Next, I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So I've simply got my cinnamon that is already ground. And I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And this one, my spoon does not fit in, so I'm just going to knock it into there. Cinnamon is actually really good on different types of meat. Then I'm going to do half of a teaspoon of turmeric. And this is a great ground turmeric that I get from Savory Spice. And I'm going to do half a teaspoon of that. And the reason that I only want to do half a teaspoon is because it is very overpowering as a flavor. I'm going to do half a teaspoon of ground cumin. So I'm going to measure half a teaspoon of ground cumin. And then finally, I'm going to have half a teaspoon of ground cardamom. A lot of people are worried about using cardamom. It's kind of an odd spice that a lot of people don't know about. It gives such a good flavor. So I have half a teaspoon of that. I have everything in here that I need. One of the other things that I sometimes put on top, I just don't happen to have any today, is I will put either dates or raisins. Love to put raisins on top of this. Make this really, really nice. The final thing that I need to do is add just a touch of water. And by just a touch of water, I mean not even half of a cup of water. Because as this cooks, because of the salt that's in here and because of the fact that the chicken is made of cells, all the vegetables are made of cells, the cells as it cooks will start to lyse. And as the cells lyse, they're going to release water. So I'm really not going to put all that much water. Sometimes I don't actually put any water in, which is just fine as well. So I'm going to put about half a cup of water in. So I've got my half cup water. I'm going to dump my half cup of water in there, and I'm done. I'm ready to cover this up. I'm ready to put it in the base for the crock pot. Cook it on low for about 3 hours. If you need less time, you can cook it on high for about an hour, and you're ready to go. When it's done, the chicken, you can actually take a fork to it, and it will just fall apart when you put it with a fork. I want to thank you for joining me in looking at how to cook some Moroccan chicken. As you notice, that took us less than 15 minutes to set up, and you've got a great dinner for 4 to 5 people. You can put this on top of regular rice. You can put this on top of chopped up cauliflower, which a lot of people call cauliflower rice. I'm doing this in between clients, so this shows that you can set up a meal for your family without having to have hours of time, without having to have perfectionist skills in what you're looking at. Thank you very much for joining me, and have an absolutely wonderful dinner. Bye now.